Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream.
Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we speak with small cap executives right after important news. And he's done it again with us today. Bernard Tourillon, Chairman and CEO of HPQ Silicon, trades at the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol HPQ, and for our friends in Germany on Frankfurt under UGE. For those of you who are new to the story, HPQ is planning on becoming a vertically integrated producer of solar-grade silicon metal and other silicon metals along the way, which we're going to talk about. Ultimate goal is manufacturing solar cells at the lowest cost and the lowest carbon footprint on the planet. More than just lip service, they've got some of the best partners in the world that are working with them on this. Great financing partners. So they're definitely on their way, and they're about to launch their pilot plant. That's their next stage. Bernard, welcome to the show.
Thanks, George.
So here's the latest headline. I'm going to read it if you pardon me. HPQ PUREVAP commercial plant costing indicates significant Capex savings versus conventional plants producing silicon metal. So that's a pretty bold statement.
Is that a mouthful or what?
But the part I look at is significant Capex savings versus conventional plants producing silicon metal. So you're basically saying you're going to be cheaper than all the incumbents.
Yes. Like the very short answer is yes. And because we are actually, we've been the first one, we're probably the only one that's only focused on a new process, a new way of making silicon metal, right? Our original focus was solar, go all the way to solar. But what we suddenly discovered is that an incredible new massive window, massive market opened up to us, because by shooting for being solar, and I'm going to be very clear, we haven't stopped for shooting for that. By shooting for going solar, we realized that what we do in between, we do better, cheaper, easier than anybody else. So, I'll be very stupid. There's a million tons short of that material, which is very hard for traditional smelters to do. And I can come in for a tenth of the cost because I don't need the massive thing. That's what it means.
Your quote is what really caught my attention. With the Gen 3 phase start just around the corner, we are getting closer to the time when market participants will have no choice but to take notice that we're the only viable low capex, low opex alternative producing silicon metal. Yep. What's different about this press release is how bold you are, because obviously there are incumbents around the world producing silicon metal right now. They're going to be reading this and saying either this guy's full of it, or holy moly, we're concerned. You know, do we have something to be concerned about? What's so different this time that you're going so bold and just saying it like it is?
Well, you know, we've been doing this in 2015. We've been doing multiple tests. I think we're probably up like 150 tests. The system's operational. We know there is so much technical mumbo jumbo in this that it is hard for me sometimes to bring it down to the simple essential. All right. If you look at this press release in conjunction with the other press release we issued in June, where we said we need 4.5 tons of raw material to make 1 ton of raw material, and we can use standard type of coal versus in process. Now we're basically saying, okay, that's nice. And now we're saying we can build a plant that can do this that's going to have a scaling up incremental factor of only 2,500 ton. Okay. But we're already at 5,000 ton, as cheap as the tier 1 producer, which desperately needs 30,000 tons. So that's what we're saying is just the process is so efficient that it's a mind number. I'll tell you what a broker told me this week when he spoke to me. He says, it's so hard to believe, okay, that I'm scratching my head, but I don't want to wait till it's a buck when basically everything else has been eliminated. All the risk has been eliminated.
Actually, I want to ask you about that. What is left in terms of the risk? Because you still got to do that. You still got to launch the pilot plant. So how far, if we're looking at a graph of progress, 0 being here, 100 being here, where are you right now in terms of how close you are to absolute certainty of what you've got?
I would dare to say we're almost 75% there. And I'm not really worried about the next part of it. Since the beginning, it's part of the process. It depends how you calculate the risk. Okay, if I believe at the end of the pilot field, the pilot plant stage, will we be able to produce, 4N silicon metal, having a 90% conversion yield? I believe strongly we'll do that. Will we do that on the first shot? No way. That's not the way it works. Okay,
well, you've never done anything on the first shot in any phase.
No. It's like
Gen 1, Gen 2.
We have an internal joke. We call R&D research and destroy. Hopefully, we destroyed everything on the Gen 2, so we won't destroy anything on the Gen 3. But you're asking what's the risk? That's the only risk. But the rest of it, the Gen 3 is a scale-up model of the Gen 2. Okay, fundamentally, one of the biggest risks was going from Gen 1 to Gen 2, because at Gen 2, we were testing one of the big hypotheses, which is, can we operate under vacuum while we're doing a continuous operation? We resolved that issue. Now we're just scaling it up. And then once the Gen 3 works, then the scaling up factor from going from the 50-ton to a commercial scale, 2,500 ton, is smaller than the one we're doing now. And once we have our first commercial plant operational and, we remove all the kinks out of it, we got it to operate as we want to, then it's just, we just, basically copy the plant. Boom, 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 boom.
You're not the first company that's come along in the last 10 years and talked about processes and things like that and improving processes, metallurgy. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of big flameouts in the past. What is it, the difference here? What does it mean to you, the fact that when you say you're talking about PyroGenesis and Apple Solar, and specifically for this press release, PyroGenesis is a third party that provided you this data, and we all know that PyroGenesis is a world-renowned technology company. So, how much more confident does it make you when you have your discussions with potential partners, potential customers, or anybody in the industry, that you can back this up as third-party data, not just your own data internally, where you might be tweaking your own numbers?
Basically, since the start with PyroGenesis, our aim has been to go to commercial scale. I think Peter has said it multiple times here and in other venue. He doesn't have the brain power to waste on fiddling with the numbers to doing something. Okay.
He's not reselling to the U.S. Department of Defense and European. He doesn't have time to waste. He's got a full plate as it is.
Yeah. So the truth of the matter is that I've sort of studied every one of the failure. Okay, and I think the biggest failure has always been to try to play this as a resource play. So I got this massive resource, and then we can come up with a beautiful, massive PEA, and then you're sort of stuck with her. We didn't take that route. We're not taking that route. We're focusing. We understand that we are in an industrial metallurgic play, right? Market is massive. Barriers to entries are very high for everybody else except us, because we've sort of demolished them, or we're in the process of demolishing them. So that's really been our approach. Our approach hasn't been to build a technology. I just saw another company has a bigger market caps in the graphite space. Beautiful. They have a beautiful deposit. What they announced, they're going to spend $11 million to build a demonstration plant for a high-value product in the battery space. Newsflash, I have one. I've paid for it. It's operational next quarter. That company has a market cap 3 times bigger than me. Something is missing here, guys. But that's the way the market is. I'm not like, I understand this. What we're doing is so groundbreaking that everybody looks at me and says, "You know what? I'll wait.
I think that's what it is. I think it almost scares people. I think it almost scares people because you're not taking the conventional route where people say, okay, conventional route,
Look at the conventional route. How many failures has there been in the conventional route? How many times it takes the market to realize that conventional doesn't work? Seriously, think about it. We're in the industrial mineral space, okay? And if you go saying too big numbers when you're a small company, it doesn't make any sense. I'm already thinking, how can I generate money with my pilot plant, which is a 50 ton a year, okay? I'm not having, yeah, it's going to be demonstration to prove my technology work. I know how to scale it up. I know the numbers. I was having discussion with investors. Of course, financing a 2,500 ton plant is bigger, but it's going to be much easier because we'll have all the data. We'll have like, we're with 4 years of R&D. And at that time, we get an outside engineering firm. Once we control everything, we tell them, okay, these are all the points. Not me, the guys at Paro, but I'm not worried about it. Like I was in a car with the guys at Paro once, and I think in the car there was like 2 PhD, 1 master's in engineering, and that was the dumb MBA in the car.
That almost sounds like the makings of a joke in a car where 3 PhDs, 1. Hey, let's talk about the numbers a little bit because you provide some numbers in the press release. So you provided numbers compared to 2 conventional plants.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with Mississippi Silicon first, where your cost per kilogram of annual capacity matches theirs. But what I found interesting, you said you can match them, but at 85% less capex. Okay. And so, you know, that's a massive number because they needed $300 million to build their plant. So at 85% less capex, the numbers to me, 15% is $45 million. So I got my numbers right there.
Rough ballpark. It's easy to do.
Yeah, we're ballparking.
You just multiply 5 million kilogram plus the price, you get an idea what I'm talking about. What you have to understand is that the traditional process, okay, the traditional process needs a certain scale to be economical. Oh, wait, sorry about this.
The phones are ringing off the hook.
Right? Yeah, it's something else. I lost my train of thought.
You need a certain scale to be economical.
Yeah, they need a certain scale to be economical, okay? Because their process is massive. So they've sort of like, it's been the same process that's been tweaked by big boys for the last 50 to 60 years. So they got it down to, okay, we know what works. 2 furnaces for 1 smelter, 30,000 tons. Basically, that's what works. So
they can't go smaller. They can't do 2 furnaces, smelter, 5,000 tons.
They can't go smaller. Okay, that's basically sort of like the rule of thumb. Everybody that tries to go smaller on the traditional process can't.
And everyone's using the traditional process, so they're stuck.
So we're not using traditional process. We're using a reactor-based process. I'll just give you another small idea how it's different. Our system is a reactor, so it can fit within a plant. Wait a second. I thought I shut off my... There we go.
That's
Sorry
all right.
about that.
That's okay. Business is business, buddy. Go ahead.
Business is business. It's the same person calling twice. That's okay. What am I saying? Yeah, they have a traditional process. They have a certain way of doing. They know how their system works, so they understand every tweak and everything else. Okay, they're not going to willing to take a risk. What that means is that, and this is an interesting difference between Mississippi Silicon and the other project. Okay, Mississippi Silicon is a tier 1 producer that decided to build a new plant, not in Brazil, but in the US. So they brought their expertise, their knowledge. That's why it cost $220 million for them to build it. Okay.
Oh, they're 220. BakkiSilicon, 300. Okay.
The Iceland one, okay, is a new player that wanted to come in. He doesn't have the expertise, so he has to sign deal with smelter manufacturers, and he has to buy what's known as a turnkey project. Cost suddenly goes up, maybe also because it's in Iceland, but cost goes up from 220 to $300 million. So that's,
and you're 90%. You're saying you're 90% less capital.
I'm 90% because my reactor system is 2,500 tons. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying before I got interrupted with a phone call. Just to give you a small idea of design, when you build a smelter, it looks like a smelter, all right? It looks, smells, so social acceptability is a smelter. Me, it's a reactor, okay? I can build it, and you would look outside of my plant, it would look like a standard 2-level commercial plant.
Right.
What that means is for people that are willing to finance and participate in them, for them, if they finance my building, they won't get stuck with a specialized industrial plant. They'll just get stuck with massive. Doesn't look a lot, but that plays a lot in the costing of everything else. Those are all the tons of, of systems. Social acceptability is much easier. It's a smaller plant. It starts to be human size, okay? And, I don't need 6 tons of raw material. I need 4.5 tons. So I don't need to bring that many trucks of raw material in to come in. All those issues, we thought them through in how to build a better process. And we are building it, and every one of the parts are important. And the beauty of it, there's going to be a massive demand for the 2N silicon metal, which is the hardest one for the smelters to do. And for us, we've proven that we can do it basically using shit.
So for everyone at home, it looks like you're lining up multiple streams of revenue. You're still going to be shooting for solar, but along the line, you've got 2N, low impurities, 4N, battery grade. Like, are you lining up a number of different revenue streams here to come out of your
because
plant and the Gen 2?
Yeah. I even saw a business case from one of the big boys. And at the end, for them, it's difficult because it doesn't generate, how can I say, numbers that move the needle for a $1 billion a year company. But they were presenting a business case where there's a specific market for a material, 3,500 ton per year, and it sells for 2 or 3 times the price of what's selling. Okay. Well, those are the type of market niche that I can attack specifically, get a much higher profit margin, and I'm the lowest cost producer. So that's what I'm looking for as we develop solar. Okay, I still believe that we will get in the solar part, but that's what it is. What people have to realize is metallurgic grade silicon metal is an $8 billion a year business, 2.8 million tons, metric tons of material. Okay, I look at the numbers from lithium and everything else, they're not even close to the million yet. My market is already 2.8 million. Now, demand growth driven by 2N purity, which is used in solar as the raw material for the other producers, or as in chemical, medical, and those type of field, seems to be telling me there's going to be a need for an extra 1 million ton of that material. Now, to feed that demand, investors have to, do I put money into 30,000 ton per year project of $300 million, okay? And if there always be overbuild and then the prices go down, I have to shut down 30,000. So it's all
a lot of money.
Yeah.
Whereas where you're saying is you're almost modular. You start for 2,500, another 2,500, another 2,500. But you're able to do that. You can scale up, whereas the big boys can't scale down.
I can scale. I can right size. All right.
Right.
We took the number of 5,000 ton. Okay, if it probably went to 7,500 ton, I'd probably be cheaper than Mississippi Silicon. Okay? We went to 5,000 ton because when we started to take a look at those numbers, I was thinking solar. All right, 5,000 ton, you make about 1.5 gigawatt of solar energy in the solar business. That's significant. The capacity of 1.5 gigawatt solar power. So that's how we came up to those numbers. So those numbers were designed where we were thinking solar. And then we suddenly discovered, wait a minute, there's niche markets that we can attack. There's niche markets that are coming left, right, and centers to us where we perfectly position, where we're going to be able to bring investors and our end buyers into our plant to show how we're building up. And when they see our plant, the only thing they have to visualize to see how it's going to be bigger is just think these things bigger. That's it.
So last question for you, because I think I've got 20 questions, but we got to be sensitive of time because this is awesome. Industry, safe to say that, but maybe it's not safe to say, but look, you're using some pretty bold language, your press releases. These things must be showing up on the search engines, searches of people who are in the industry around the world. You're using Mississippi Silicon in your press release. You're using BakkiSilicon in your press release. Are you getting any attention from the industry yet? Anybody, you getting calls, you get noticed?
I do get some small inklings from left, right, and centers, but I think they're sort of looking, let's take a look, and they're probably thinking it's going to, listen, if they've been investing $300 million to buy a plant, I have a market cap of 20 million. They can wait till I have a market cap of $300 million before they can take a That's the way they're thinking about it. That's not the way I'm thinking about it, but that's the way they're thinking about it. And as you said, the industry is full of people who haven't succeeded, but they didn't have Pyrogenesis as their partner.
All right, Bernard, from sunny California, we thought it was that important to speak to you about this press. Oh, by the way, you had to issue a couple of clarifications.
One clarification, not a couple. One
by IROC. Was that any significance to all this, or any or?
Yeah, actually, I think it's a great news because I've always been sort of like an hybrid company. Like, am I a resource? Am I a technology company? In my press release, how does it fit in? Now I know where the border is. So as long as people realize that what I'm talking about when I talk about selling price, cost, and everything else, there's no correlation with my resources, which is anyway my business model. Okay, my business model is, why should I waste money developing? Like, I have resources, I have properties that have the material, but I'm going to wait until I have all the costing done to bother about doing, the mining way. And what I've discovered, silicon metal is not, it's not your typical, like, your green energy metal, which is vanadium, it's that they use, or cobalt and blah, blah. It's not. It's a transformed process. If you look at the reality of making silicon metal, okay, the real raw ingredient is carbon. No, I'm not going to become a coal mine. The first one is electricity. Well, I'm not going to become an electricity producer. So the quartz part it's there, but it's not our focus. And I think it's the way it should be done when you're developing a technology. You should focus on finding a way of moving and scaling up. So that's right. So if it finally tells me what the boundaries of what I can discuss. I knew what I could discuss, but now I know where it is. I feel very comfortable. I think it's going to allow me to be even more daring in my next press release.
So last question. The great thing about 2019, Bernard, is you've been moving the ball along really nicely. We keep putting out news. We have these interviews where you're moving the ball along. So what is the next, we're sitting here in July, the 15th, 16th. What is the next, what does the rest of the year look like? What should everyone be looking forward to?
Acceleration of the news flow. It's just normal. It's the normal way of a company developing a technology. Until your pilot plant is operational, there's a phase that is, we're doing engineering design, we're doing engineering studies, we're doing discussion, we're doing marketing studies and all those type of things. So that really plays into it. Now it's getting pretty closer. It's like we started the construction build. I just went last week to visit what it looks like. We have a beautiful 3,000 square foot plant within a plant at Pyrogenesis. And I think that's going to become a very busy place where investors are going to want to come and take a look at it and everything else. Of course, you can't come in there without signing tons of NDAs, and no pictures are allowed.
I'll be there, so get an NDA ready for us, because when we're ready, we want to be there, doing some kind of on-site, webcast.
Well, it's going to be on-site webcast outside.
Yeah,
nothing inside. Or we might go back to the beautiful power thing we did last time with Peter.
All right, Bernard, thanks for joining us, my friend. Congratulations on another great announcement. I can't wait to see what happens with this pilot plant, because this looks like it's safe to say the next 6 to 9 months will be the most exciting 6 to 9 months of this company's history now. I believe so. You've been watching Bernard Turiel, Chairman and CEO of HPQ Silicon. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange on the stock symbol HPQ, and for our friends in Europe on Frankfurt under UGE. Now, you've heard what Bernard has to say. Go do more due diligence. This is really marked for the people who haven't really heard of the HPQ story before. For those of you who do, the loyal followers, you've got to feel happy, and now you're up to date. But for the rest of you, get to Agoracom, punch in the company's name or stock symbol, read the profile information where we summarize all this for you. Watch the previous videos to see how Bernard's been moving the ball along. And then when you have questions, because you will, post them to the forum, and Bernard and his team will be answering them, especially Bernard, who answers most of the questions directly. And that should be a big sign of confidence for everybody when the CEO is actually fully accessible and answering directly. So thanks for joining us. Have a fantastic day. See you next time.